All right, today we're diving into something called MetaGPT. And let me tell you, it's a completely different way of thinking about how AI agents can build software. See, it's not about just letting a bunch of AIs chat with each other and hoping for the best. No, this is about organizing them into a virtual company with real roles and real processes. So let's break down how this whole thing actually works.
So let's just start with this, kind of a wild question. What if an entire software company could run on AI? I'm not just talking about one AI that can code. I mean the whole shebang. A product manager, an architect, a team of engineers, all of them AI, all working together perfectly, taking a single idea and turning it into a finished working product. That sounds like science fiction, right? Well, that's the incredibly ambitious goal MetaGPT is trying to tackle.
Okay, so to really get why MetaGPT is such a big deal, you got to understand what things were like before. Early attempts at getting multiple AIs to work together, well, chaotic is a nice way to put it. Imagine a bunch of brilliant people in a room with no boss, no plan, no structure. They just struggled. They couldn't collaborate on anything complex without things falling apart.
And the biggest problem, the real project killer, was something called cascading hallucinations. It's exactly like that game of telephone, you know? One AI agent makes a tiny little mistake, a hallucination. The next agent, not knowing any better, just builds right on top of that mistake. And the next one builds on that. By the time you get to the end of the line, the whole project is just built on a foundation of sand. It was doomed from the start. It's that classic image of a chaotic startup with no management, no plan, and everyone just kind of doing their own thing.
And this quote, this is actually from the paper, it just perfectly sums up how absurd things could get. You've got Bob, the AI architect, in the middle of a complex project, turning to the product manager and asking, "Great, have you had lunch?" I mean, seriously? This is a perfect example of how these systems would just get totally sidetracked by useless, idle chatter. It's a massive waste of time, a waste of computing power, and it gets you absolutely nowhere.
So you have all this chaos. How do you fix it? Well, MetaGPT's solution is both simple and kind of genius. They decided to stop treating these AI agents like a bunch of friends in a group chat and start treating them like employees in a highly efficient professional company. They gave them a management framework.
And this right here is the core idea. MetaGPT gives the AI team a company playbook, what they call standardized operating procedures, or SOPs. Now, this isn't some new, crazy AI concept. They literally just looked at how the best human software companies work and encoded those successful workflows into the AI system. So now, every agent has a very specific job, and they follow a clear step-by-step process, from the initial idea all the way to the final tested product.
Okay, so how does this virtual company actually, work? Because this isn't just a fun analogy, it's a real concrete system designed from the ground up for order and efficiency. Let's get under the hood and look at the three main pillars that make this whole thing tick. Really, it all boils down to three simple but powerful ideas. 1. Role specialization. 2. Structured communication. And 3. Executable feedback. Basically, give everyone a job, tell them how to talk to each other, and make them check their own work. Let's break down each one.
First up, role specialization. This is a huge one. Instead of having a bunch of general-purpose AIs trying to do everything, MetaGPT assigns very specific roles, just like in a real company. You've got an AI product manager who figures out what the customer wants. Then an AI architect designs the whole system. After that, an AI engineer actually writes the code. And finally, an AI QA engineer tests it to make sure it works. Each agent is a specialist, an expert in its little area, and that makes the whole assembly line incredibly efficient.
Second, and this is a real game changer, is structured communication. Remember that "have you had lunch" problem? Well, MetaGPT solves it by basically banning small talk. Agents don't just chat anymore. Instead, they communicate by producing formal, structured documents. So the product manager doesn't just tell the architect what to do, it hands over a detailed product requirements document. The architect doesn't just describe the design, it delivers actual design diagrams. Every single handoff is crystal clear, precise, and leaves no room for misunderstanding.
And the third piece of the puzzle is what they call executable feedback. Think of this as a built-in self-correction loop. The engineer agent doesn't just write a bunch of code and hope for the best. No way. It writes the code and then it immediately tries to run it. If it crashes, and it will, it doesn't just give up. It looks at the error message, figures out what went wrong, and then debugs its own code. It's this constant cycle of write, test, fail, fix, over and over again until the code runs without a single error.
Okay, so the whole framework sounds amazing in theory, right? It's organized, it's structured, it's smart. But the real question is, does it actually work? Does it perform any better? Well, let's take a look at the data.
And honestly, the numbers are pretty mind-blowing. If you take a standard benchmark for code generation, a really powerful model like GPT-4 on its own gets a score of about 67%. That's pretty good. But if you take that exact same GPT-4 model and put it inside the MetaGPT framework, its score skyrockets to almost 86%. That is a massive, massive leap in performance. And it's not because the AI model got smarter, it's because the process got smarter.
And it gets even more impressive when you look at building entire complex software projects. Compared to another system called ChatDev, MetaGPT just blows it out of the water. Its code is way more likely to actually run correctly the first time. And look at this human revision cost. That's basically how much a human has to step in and fix things. With MetaGPT, it's drastically lower. This proves it's not just better at coding, it's way more autonomous.
So what does all this add up to? What's the final product? Well, it's real, actual, working software. We're talking about MetaGPT taking a single sentence, a one-line prompt, and autonomously building entire applications. Things like games, data analysis tools, you name it. This isn't just a cool research paper anymore. It's like an automated production line for software.
So the success of MetaGPT is way more than just a clever bit of engineering. It has some really profound implications for how we should think about building autonomous AI systems, and really for the whole future of AI collaboration. So what are the big takeaways here? First, it turns out that borrowing workflows from successful human companies, these SOPs, is an incredibly powerful way to get AI agents to work together. For anyone out there building these kinds of systems, this paper is basically screaming that structured communication, formal documents instead of open chat, is just way more effective for complex jobs. And that self-correction loop, that executable feedback, it is absolutely critical if you want reliable results. All of this together is a huge leap forward toward AI systems that can actually solve complex, real-world problems on their own.
And all this leaves us with one final, fascinating question to chew on. We've just seen an AI system that can act like a high-performing software team. So what's next? What happens when these AI teams don't just build software, but they start learning from their own successes and failures and begin to improve their own processes? What happens when the virtual company can promote, fire, and hire new AI agents to make itself even better with every single project? That's when things get really interesting.
This is for entertainment purposes only.